All right. So you sent over these fascinating reports about climate risk
Yeah.
and specifically how it's impacting the corporate world.
Yeah.
And we're diving into a World Economic Forum article
Okay.
highlighting a brand new report from the Alliance of CEO Climate Leaders and BCG.
Right.
So our mission here is to kind of understand what this means for business leaders,
Mm-hmm.
like you listening to this, and how this connects to the bigger picture
Yeah.
of climate action. Get ready
Yeah.
for some aha moment.
Definitely. Yeah, this report really doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Right.
It makes it very clear that climate risks aren't just some far off threat. They're
Thanks.
already here, they're impacting bottom lines, and
Yeah.
things are only going to get more intense.
So let's get specific, right?
Yeah.
The report talks about physical risks and transition risks.
Yeah.
Can you break those down for us a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So imagine a utility company with power lines running through like a wildfire-prone area.
Okay.
That's a physical risk, the very real possibility of damage from, increasingly frequent extreme weather. And it's not just about damage to infrastructure.
Okay.
Think about heat stress impacting worker productivity.
Right.
This report suggests that physical risks alone could slash profits, specifically EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization,
Yeah.
by a whopping 25% by 2050
Wow.
in sectors like utilities and communication.
Okay. 25% of EBITDA.
Yeah,
That's huge.
it's massive.
I'm starting to see why this is a CEO level concern.
Yeah.
Now, what about those transition risks?
So, think of it this way, like as the world is shifting gears to a lower carbon economy,
Okay.
businesses that drag their feet, they're going to face higher costs. It's like, trying to drive a gas guzzler in a world designed for electric vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So those transition risks could come in the form of stricter carbon emission regulations, rising carbon pricing schemes, even shifting consumer preferences and investor expectations.
So you've got the direct hit from climate change itself
Right.
with the physical risks.
Exactly.
And then you've got this whole economic earthquake happening as the world adjusts
Yeah.
and moves away from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Those are the transition risks.
Exactly.
It's a bit of a double whammy.
Yeah, it is a
Right.
1-2 punch, yeah.
And it gets even more complex when you start to factor in different industries.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Different industries are going to be impacted differently.
Exactly. So like we were talking about utilities,
Mm-hmm.
heavily reliant on physical infrastructure
Right, yeah,
that's vulnerable to all these extreme weather events,
exactly.
hence that 25% EBITDA.
Potential hit, yeah.
But then you have communication companies.
Yeah.
They might face higher costs trying to decarbonize their vast data centers.
Yeah, exactly.
And networks.
Yeah, they're going to have to adapt as well.
Okay, so the report paints a pretty stark picture of the risks, but it also highlights potential opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to hear your take on how these two sides of the coin, the cost of inaction versus the opportunity, actually play out financially.
So, yeah, it is a really fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, you have those very real costs of ignoring climate risks.
Yeah.
We're talking about potential losses from everything, from property damage to supply chain disruptions.
Right.
Even something as seemingly straightforward as insurance is becoming more complex.
Yeah.
Think about it, skyrocketing premiums for protection
Right.
against extreme weather events.
Yeah.
The report mentions that these could jump up by 50% by 2030.
50% increases in insurance premiums.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That's no joke. And I imagine investors are starting to get nervous about companies that aren't taking this seriously.
Absolutely. Investors are increasingly factoring climate risk into their decisions,
Yeah.
which can mean lower valuations for companies that are seen as unprepared.
Right.
But there's also this flip side to this coin, and it's surprisingly optimistic.
Right.
This report highlights a significant return on investment for companies that take proactive steps to adapt and mitigate climate risks. We're talking about
Okay.
returns of $2 to $19 for every dollar invested in smart adaptation strategies.
That's what I call a business case.
Exactly. There's money to be made here.
And what about this green economy we keep hearing about? How does that factor into the financial equation?
Yeah, so think of the green economy as the engine driving this massive transition to a more sustainable world.
Okay.
And it is growing rapidly. Projections suggest it could be worth $14 trillion by 2030.
Wow.
Companies that can capitalize on this shift,
Mm.
whether it's through renewable energy technologies,
Right.
sustainable agriculture practices, or innovative solutions to reduce emissions, they're the ones that are poised to reap the biggest rewards.
So it's not just about avoiding losses.
Yo.
It's about tapping into a whole new wave of opportunity.
Exactly. There are fortunes to be made here.
And the report actually has some pretty stark examples
It does.
of companies that learn this the hard way.
Yeah. There's this striking anecdote about a group of European utility companies that were slow to embrace this transition to renewable energy.
Right.
They ended up losing up to 80% of their market value in the 2010s.
80%.
80%, yeah. It's a stark reminder that being caught on the wrong side of this shift can have devastating financial consequences.
Wow. That's a powerful example.
It is.
So we've established that climate risks are real.
Yeah,
They're expensive to ignore.
very.
And there's a huge upside to taking action.
Right.
But what does that action actually look like?
Yeah.
What concrete steps can business leaders take? This report talks about a CEO playbook.
Yes.
I'd love to dig into that a bit more.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So the CEO playbook section of the report outlines 5 key recommendations for business leaders.
Okay.
Instead of just summarizing them all, how about we just dive deeper into 1 or 2 that you find particularly intriguing?
Yeah, I'm really interested in this idea of scenario-based planning.
Okay.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
Can you unpack that a bit further?
certainly. So imagine a world where global temperatures rise by 3 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
How would that impact your business?
Yeah.
What about a scenario where we see rapid decarbonization?
Mm-hmm.
So scenario-based planning involves modeling different potential climate futures, both optimistic and pessimistic,
Okay.
to understand that potential range of impacts and develop appropriate responses.
So it's like wargaming for climate change.
Exactly.
Instead of just reacting to whatever happens.
Yeah.
You're proactively planning for a range of possibilities.
Yeah, it forces you to think outside the box.
Right.
And consider scenarios that you might not have anticipated otherwise.
Okay. I'm starting to see how that could be a really powerful tool. What industries do you think would benefit the most from this kind of scenario-based planning?
Well, one sector that immediately comes to mind is agriculture.
Okay.
You know, farmers are on the front lines of climate change.
Yeah.
They face everything from unpredictable weather patterns to shifting growing seasons.
Right.
By using scenario-based planning, they can model how different climate scenarios would affect their crop yields, their water availability, even the types of crops that they can viably grow.
Yeah.
This allows them to make more informed decisions about everything, from irrigation strategies to crop diversification.
So instead of being caught off guard by a sudden drought or a new pest outbreak, they can anticipate these challenges and have plans in place to adapt.
Exactly. It's about building resilience and being prepared for the unexpected.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is making me think about other industries that could benefit from this.
Yeah.
You know, like infrastructure, energy, even tourism.
Absolutely. It's a versatile tool that can be applied across a wide range of sectors. And that's what makes it such a valuable recommendation in this CEO playbook.
Right.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a framework for thinking strategically about the future in a world that is increasingly defined by climate change.
Yeah, this has been so insightful already.
Oh, good.
But before we go any further, I think it would be helpful to zoom out a little bit
Okay.
and talk about a key concept mentioned in the report, capital allocation.
Yes.
Let's dive into that.
Okay. Yeah. So capital allocation is essentially about, making strategic choices with your company's finances.
Yeah.
But in the context of climate risk, it really takes on a whole new dimension.
Right, because it's not just about maximizing profits anymore.
No.
It's about balancing those short-term financial goals with long-term resilience and sustainability.
Precisely. Imagine you're the CEO of a manufacturing company. You could invest in upgrading your equipment to be more energy efficient, which might have a higher upfront cost,
Yeah.
but it could lead to significant savings down the line.
Right.
Or you could just stick with your current equipment knowing that it's contributing to your carbon footprint
Yeah.
and exposes you to potential future regulations.
It's like choosing between like a quick fix
Yeah.
that might backfire later versus a more strategic investment that really sets you up for the long haul.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it highlights the complexity of capital allocation
Mhm.
in the age of climate risk. CEOs need to consider a whole new set of factors:
Yeah.
the potential costs of inaction,
Yeah.
the opportunities in the green economy, and the evolving expectations of investors and consumers.
So it's about thinking beyond just those quarterly earnings reports and
Yeah,
taking a more holistic view
exactly.
of the company's future.
It's about recognizing that climate action is not just an ethical imperative.
Yeah.
It's a smart business strategy.
This is really making me rethink the role of a CEO.
Yeah.
It's not just about driving profits.
No.
It's about navigating this complex landscape of risks and opportunities
Yeah.
and making decisions that create value
Yeah.
for the company and for society as a whole.
It's a huge responsibility,
Eh?
but it's also an incredible opportunity.
Mm.
The CEOs who can successfully integrate climate considerations into their business strategies, they're the ones who will lead the way into a more sustainable future.
Yeah.
And they'll likely reap significant financial rewards along the way.
Okay, so we've explored scenario-based planning and capital allocation
Yeah.
in more depth. What about the other recommendations in this CEO playbook?
So, the report emphasizes a few other key actions, including integrating climate risks into the overall business strategy,
Okay.
quantifying those risks through thorough assessments,
Mm,
and really embedding climate risk management into the very fabric of the organization.
yeah, I'm particularly intrigued by this idea of embedding climate risk management into the company culture. Like,
Yeah.
what does that actually look like in practice?
So it's about going beyond simply having a sustainability team tucked away in a corner.
Right.
It's about making climate awareness and action part of everyone's job, from the CEO down to the entry-level employee.
So it's not just about ticking boxes and issuing those sustainability reports.
No, not at all.
It's about a real cultural shift within the company.
Exactly.
Right.
It's about training employees to identify and manage climate risks in their day-to-day work, incorporating climate considerations into decision-making processes,
Yeah.
even tying performance evaluations to sustainability goals.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
If you want to create lasting change, it has to be woven into the very DNA of the company.
I couldn't agree more. And when you create that kind of culture, it becomes a self-reinforcing cycle.
Right.
Employees feel empowered to contribute to the company's sustainability goals,
Yeah.
which drives innovation and creates a more engaged and motivated workforce.
And that, in turn, can lead to a stronger brand reputation,
Yes,
greater investor confidence,
absolutely.
and ultimately a more resilient and successful business.
Precisely. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
I'm really struck by the breadth of this report.
Yeah,
It goes way beyond just the financial implications of climate risk.
it does.
And it really delves into these broader questions of corporate responsibility and the role of business in society.
Yeah, and I think that's one of its most valuable contributions.
Yeah.
It acknowledges that climate action is not just about protecting profits.
Right.
It's about building a more sustainable and equitable future for everyone.
Earlier, we touched on that potential 25% EBITDA hit
Yeah.
from physical climate risks, particularly for those utilities and communication companies.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are some of the less obvious ways
Yeah.
that climate change could impact businesses across different sectors?
That's a great question. So, the impacts of climate change can be very subtle and far-reaching, touching industries in ways we might not immediately expect.
Okay.
For example, think about the tourism industry.
Mm.
Rising sea levels and more extreme weather events
Hmm.
could devastate coastal destinations, leading to a decline in tourism revenue and job losses.
Wow.
Or consider the fashion industry, which relies heavily on cotton production.
Right.
Changes in rainfall patterns and increased drought could disrupt cotton supplies,
Mhm.
driving up costs and impacting the availability of raw materials.
So it's like this domino effect.
Yeah.
One climate-related disruption can ripple through multiple industries
Exactly.
and have unforeseen consequences.
And it highlights the importance of understanding the interconnectedness of our global economy.
Yeah.
Climate risks don't exist in a vacuum. They're part of this complex web of interconnected systems.
This makes me think about the potential for innovation
Mhm.
in the face of all these challenges. We often hear about like the risks and the costs
Right.
associated with climate change.
Of course.
But what about the opportunities for new technologies
Yeah.
and business models to emerge?
That's where things get really exciting. Necessity is often the mother of invention,
Yeah.
and climate change is forcing us to rethink how we do business
Right.
and how we live our lives. It's driving innovation in areas like renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and even carbon capture technologies.
So I'm thinking about the potential for companies to create entirely new markets
Yeah.
based on climate-friendly solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
For example, as the demand for electric vehicles grows,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to need a whole new infrastructure to support them,
Yeah.
like charging stations, battery recycling facilities,
Ah.
even smart grids
Yeah,
that can manage this fluctuating supply of renewable energy.
absolutely. And these new markets will create jobs, stimulate economic growth, and help us transition to a more sustainable future.
So it's a reminder that while climate change presents significant challenges, it also offers a tremendous opportunity for innovation and progress.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
And it's inspiring to see how many companies are stepping up to this challenge, recognizing that a sustainable future is not just a moral imperative,
Mm.
but it's also a path to long-term business success.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
Yeah, it
I
has.
feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to discuss.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to unpack here.
Yeah.
And we encourage you, the listener, to keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up our deep dive today,
Okay.
I want to kind of bring it back to you, the listener.
Yeah.
We've explored this World Economic Forum article, that new report from the Alliance of CEO Climate Leaders in BCG, and covered some pretty thought-provoking ground,
Right.
from the financial implications of climate risk to the role of business in shaping a sustainable future. But what does this all mean for you? How can you take this information
Yeah.
and apply it to your own world?
Yeah, it's all about turning insight into action.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a business leader grappling with how to integrate climate considerations into your company's strategy.
Mm,
Maybe you're an investor trying to assess the climate risks of different companies in your portfolio.
right.
Or maybe you're just a concerned citizen wondering how you can make a difference.
Yeah,
The key is to start asking questions and exploring the possibilities.
exactly. And remember, this isn't just about making sweeping changes or grand pronouncements.
Mm.
It's about the everyday choices that we make.
Yeah.
It's about asking ourselves, how can I be a more conscious consumer?
Yeah.
How can I support businesses that are taking climate action seriously?
Mhm.
How can I use my voice to advocate for a more sustainable future?
Those are all great questions to consider.
Yeah.
And what's exciting is that even small actions can have this ripple effect. When we choose to buy products from sustainable companies, when we invest in renewable energy, when we speak up about the importance of climate action, we're sending a signal to the market
Yeah.
that we demand change.
It's about using our collective power
Yeah.
as consumers, investors, and citizens to really drive this transition to a more sustainable world.
And that's where I see the real opportunity here.
Yeah.
This isn't just about mitigating risks, it's about creating a better future for everyone.
Mhm.
It's about building a world where economic prosperity goes hand in hand with environmental sustainability and social justice.
I love that. A world where economic prosperity goes hand in hand with environmental sustainability and social justice.
Yeah,
It's a vision worth striving for.
it is.
And it's one that businesses have a unique opportunity to lead.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the CEOs that recognize this, who see climate action as a strategic imperative rather than a burden, they're the ones that will ultimately succeed in the long run.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you, our listener, with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked about climate risks as challenges,
Yeah.
as threats to be mitigated.
Right.
But what if we flipped that perspective?
Yeah.
What if we started viewing proactive climate leadership as a competitive advantage?
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah.
And I think it's a crucial one. Imagine a company that's not just reducing its own environmental impact,
Right.
but is actively innovating to create climate-friendly solutions.
Yeah.
They're attracting top talent, appealing to a growing market of conscious consumers,
Mhm.
and demonstrating to investors that they're prepared for the long haul.
Right.
They're not just surviving, they're thriving.
They're not just mitigating risks, they're creating value
Exactly.
for their shareholders, for
Right.
their employees, for the
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah,
And that's what makes this so exciting.
it is.
We're not just talking about avoiding a crisis, we're talking about building a better future.
And that future is being shaped right now by the decisions that we make, the investments we prioritize, and the actions we take.
So to our listener, we leave you with this.
Mm.
How can you be a part of that future?
Yeah.
How can you turn the challenge of climate change into an opportunity for innovation, growth, and positive impact.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about.
Right.
It's not just about protecting profits.
Right.
It's about creating a world where both people and the planet can thrive.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this topic with you.
Likewise.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
It doesn't.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for that brighter, more sustainable future.